Hola gente, bienvenidos al vivo con el amigo Jon Stevenson, director de Rent a Paul. Recién estuve hablando con él, así que ahora ya se va a conectar. Así que bueno, vamos a estar hablando un poco de su película, de sus futuros proyectos. Así que un poco la idea va a ser esa. ¡Ey! ¿Cómo va? ¡Ey, concejal! ¡Ey! Ana, ¿cómo va? Estoy acá con el mate marciano, ¿todo bien? Estoy acá, recién estaba hablando junto con Jon, ahora se va a meter. ¿Qué haces, Joaquín? ¿Todo bien? Estaba hablando recién con él, así que ahora se junta, ¿viste? Le decía, ¿no viste Aterrados? Tenés que verla. Y me dice, no, la tengo que ver, así que... así que dale, ya. ¿Cómo va? Ey, contra la corriente. Siempre ahí, gracias por estar. Ale, ¿todo bien? Acá estamos esperando al amigo Jon, que estaba ahí muy copado, Jon Stevenson, así que vamos. Hey, Netfilms, ¿todo bien? Acá vamos a ver. Muy interesante. Bueno, por suerte me acabó de decir John que la película Rent a Paul está ganando bastantes premios, porque yo le decía qué pena que no lo nominaron para el Oscar, sobre todo a Brian, que la verdad que nada, es un excelente actor y actúa re bien en esa película, pero bueno, viste cómo son los Oscars, siempre nominan a los mismos, pero nunca digamos, a los del circuito independiente, pero por suerte me dijo que están ganando todos los premios, así que, buenísimo. Así que por suerte. Vero, ¿cómo va? Hey, Dani, ¿todo bien? Saga, ¿cómo va? Comentaba que por suerte realmente Paul me comentaba John que están ganando todos los premios. O sea, la verdad que los Oscars cada día me importan menos. O sea, todo bien, pero ya estoy aburrido de ver las mismas caras, ¿viste? Como quiero ver caras nuevas, ¿viste? Quiero conocer a otros actores, ¿no? Así que, hey, Verónica. Así que bueno, un poco vamos a hablar de eso, vamos a hablar. Bueno, justo le comenté que habíamos hecho, ¿se acuerdan? El vivo con Eugene, el de Spree. Que un poco para mí, yo bueno hice un video hablando que tratan los mismos temas, uno en los 90 y otro en la actualidad, ¿no? Por eso me pareció acertado hacer el video como comentando los dos. Así que bueno, nada, eso. Así que ahora se nos une. Y nada, la idea. ¿Cómo va, Gonzalo, Indy? Hey, Gamitator. Así que no, un poco va a ser eso. O sea, por suerte, gracias a los premios y al reconocimiento que recibieron con la película, van a hacer futuros proyectos. La verdad que me alegro un montón por él y además, bueno, y ya le enviaremos, le dije, te tengo que mandar los alfajores, porque ya se los había mandado a todos, así que te tengo que mandar alfajores. Ahora por suerte que conozco un montón de gente que va y viene de Argentina a Los Ángeles, entonces ya le puedo mandar. Así que, así. Los famosos. O sea, los que en realidad más a mí me gustan son los capitanes del espacio. Pasa que son difíciles de conseguir. No sé si los que no son de Argentina, son alfajores que no se consiguen, digamos, de ningún lado, pues no son de exportación. Después, ¿cuál era el...? Así que no, y bueno, también él hizo varios cortometrajes. Voy a ver si me los puede mandar para subirlos al canal del fanzine. Así que y vamos a armar seguramente cosas muy copadas. Así que, ¿cómo va la gente de Denver? ¿Cómo va basando en dibujos? Así que, bueno, en cualquier momento se mete, estemos listos, que arrancamos. Así, bueno, de paso... Hey, Brian, ¿cómo va? ¿Todo bien? Acá estamos listos para transmitir. Brian, para los que no saben, que se llama Brian como el Brian de Rent a Paul, también creo que ya estará bien, esperemos que esté ahí en el público. Es un actor acá argentino, así que... ¿qué haces, Manuel? ¿Todo bien? Así que no, ¿qué te iba a decir? Mira, creo que... gracias, Brian, ¿todo bien? No, creo que es muy importante empezar a darle más espacio a estas películas. Y esto es algo que yo voy a empezar a hablar más seguido. Porque yo veo que todos los canales de cine, cuentas de Instagram, sobre todo las mainstream, le chupan mucho el culo... Ay, perdón. Sí, voy a hablar con puteada. Le chupan el culo a Netflix y a Disney. A ver, todo bien, pero no necesitan esas empresas... No necesitan marketing porque ya tienen. Yo creo que en todo caso el rol que deberían hacer los youtubers y los influencers es apoyar a las voces que no son escuchadas. Ojo, yo entiendo por qué lo hacen, porque el algoritmo, si vos hablas de películas de Netflix, de Disney y de Amazon, te premia. Si yo A ver, nosotros nos tenemos que romper el culo para que el algoritmo no nos ayude en Instagram, en YouTube, en TikTok, porque nosotros estamos hablando capaz de películas menos conocidas. Y fíjense que ni bola el algoritmo, ¿no? Entonces el esfuerzo que hacemos, acá está, ahí llegó. Transmitir 4, 3, 2, 1. ¡Hey! Brian, thank you. thank, thank you for being here. John, welcome. Are you
Hey, how's it
there?
going?
Oh,
I can hear you
excellent.
now.
Ready with my mate, always ready.
Yes, it looks delicious. I wish I had some. I got water.
Don't worry, I will send you some. And the alfajores also. Well, let's start from the beginning. I always ask this question. Tell me, who are you and when I read your biography on your website, but tell us when did you start thinking about becoming a director? I mean, from the beginning, like you were like 5 years old and
Right.
how?
Yeah, so when I was 14, I got my first job at a dog groomer, and I was washing dogs, cutting their hair and all that kind of stuff. I got $50 cash every Saturday, and I saved up for a summer and bought my first camcorder and started making movies with my sister and my friends at school, stuff like that. A lot of stuff, mostly Matrix parodies, like The Matrix was my Star Wars. So we would literally go to like the rock climbing store and buy harnesses and rope and put each other on pulleys and do wire stunts. And it was crazy. So,
And and then you start doing short films. I know there was one called Steve's. Where can we watch your short films?
man, so I don't know if I'd have to just put Stiffs online because it played in a few festivals a while back, and I haven't ever posted it anywhere. But that all came out of film school. I was doing a lot of film school shorts, and then after film school, a bunch of my friends and I got together and made Stiffs. John Schmidt, he directed that. He's still a great friend of mine. And then I started working with Jimmy Weber. He directed a short called Incubator, and then we made the film Eat together that he directed and I shot, and then he produced Rent-A-Pal, which I directed and edited. So our whole crew is like mostly film school friends that have stuck together.
Hmm. Well, Red Apple for me, it's a wonderful film. One of our YouTubers from Latin America, from Spain, did a whole video about this film, talking about the issues. So, where did you come up with the idea? I know I saw the original films, Rent a Friend, but did you have in mind all this idea about the effects of isolation, the idea of loneliness? That are subjects that are in the movie.
Yeah, it was all of that just kind of came about because that's kind of the place I was in my life when I was really lonely. I was feeling very vulnerable, all this kind of stuff. And so one day I came across Rent a Friend on the internet, and I was just like, oh my God, this is like, it was like the perfect handbooks, guide to how a sociopath operates. And
Mm.
I was just like, this is amazing. So anyway, from that concept, we built out the whole Rent-A-Pal world with Video Rendezvous and all this kind of stuff. And I was also, the house that I was living in, next door to that house is the house that we shot Rent-A-Pal in. It just so happened to be that an old woman was living there, and I was friends with her and her sons, and she passed away a few years ago. And I asked her sons, like, hey, I would love to make a horror film here. Would you let me do that? And they were like, oh my gosh, that'd be so cool. So we got to shoot the whole movie next door. This is my garage right here. We ran the whole production out of my garage and like my living room, and it was pretty awesome.
And where did you get Brian? Brian, it's a wonderful actor. It's there's a lot of good actors that should be known. I told you I was hoping that Brian was nominated for the Oscars,
Come
and the
on.
Oscars should consider. And where did you get Brian? Where did you know him?
Brian has been he's been working in Colorado for a really long time. He's like one of those undiscovered gems. He does theater and a lot of film, and I had worked with him in various points kind of as I was coming up. I think he even auditioned for Stiffs or something at one point. But so we've known each other for a long time. But we had worked together on a movie called Hoax, and I remember when we were shooting that movie, I was like the assistant camera guy on Hoax, so I was pulling focus, and I was watching on the monitor, and I was like, this guy Brian is so good, like I would love to make a movie. So fast forward a few years later when I'm writing Rent-A-Pal, and then Brian called me up out of nowhere one day and was like, hey man, I haven't talked to you in forever, like how are you doing? Like, you don't happen to have any really cool, you know, scripts with like really good dialogue and emotional range and, you know, something like that I could really sink my teeth into? And I was like, I literally have that. I'm working on that right now. Do you want to be in it? And he was like, yes. And so he was in the movie.
No, the interesting thing about the movie is that the character, that Brian played. I mean, you can consider a normal guy, a guy who's okay. He takes care of her mother, and it's interesting as an essay of how loneliness kind of drives people crazy or drives the people, you know, to these dark places. I mean, that's what your idea in the beginning, or how did you come up with all that?
Yeah, the impetus of everything is more about, it ended up being a lot about loneliness because that falls under the same umbrella of vulnerability. And just where, you know, it started was that here, if Rent-A-Friend or Rent-A-Pal was a tape and the exact person, the perfect person watched it at the exact wrong moment of their life, they could get driven into insanity. So Rent-A-Pal was kind of designed as this like trap for someone to really vulnerable to fall into. And through that, you know, came all of these things that I realized I had stuff to say about loneliness and toxic masculinity and, you know, what it means to be in a unconditional love type relationship and stuff like that. So, yeah, it just kind of opened a big box of emotions for me. So it's cool that it resonates with people and that they feel, you know, they feel that authenticity, because it was very like, you know, kind of my therapy session when I was writing the movie.
Well, actually, we talked to Brian about the scenes with you know, the actress that plays his mother. That was amazing, and Brian told me that they were very intense scenes. Like, I mean, and the actress was so wonderful. Also, how did you cast her? And Brian told me the story, but how did you, as a director, you can create that atmosphere so the actors can, you know, get there?
Yeah, that's all Brian and Kathy. They're just like all-star actors. They're both theater actors. Kathleen Brady has been in the theater scene in Denver for decades, and so Brian, we call him BLF. BLF always wanted to work with her, and months before we even started casting the movie, I was literally looking on a casting website for local talent and saw Kathleen Brady, and I was like, man, she's great. That would be cool. And then like I kind of forgot about it, and months later, when it came to casting someone, BLF threw out that name, and I was like, oh my God, I already know who that is, and that would be perfect, and let's do it. You know, like, so like many things on this movie, a lot of stuff just fell into place, and it ended up being perfect because when they both got on set, they just had amazing chemistry, and they would spend time together. Like one day they went over to the house before we were shooting and just like hung out for the afternoon and kind of like, you know, just got the vibe of the house, and it was really cool.
Paul here asked, where can I see the film?
Yeah, so I'm not sure what is happening with it internationally right now. In the States, it's on Hulu. I know in Europe, it's on Sky. I'm not sure about South America, but I know it's, you know, you can definitely buy the Blu-ray on Amazon, but it's on most streaming platforms. So I got to think someone has it down there.
Okay, great. Well, about the connection with the movie Spree, we have this wonderful chat with Eugene, that's the director of Spree. Did you have any, did you read some study, sociological study? Because there is the sociologist called Bauman that in the 90s talk about the liquid society, the liquid relationship, how we are losing our ability to communicate. and that was in the 90s. Now it's worse, the situation. Have you did you do some research about these issues?
Yeah, I had done a lot of reading on sociopaths and sociopathy and kind of what those qualities that make, you know, someone this like evil. And they have a quality called malevolent creativity, which means they're really creative and good at coming up with horrible, mean things to do to people, like ways to destroy someone, you know? So I just am so fascinated by that and how it's created by neglect, emotional neglect when you're a child and stuff like that. But anyway, so I'm really excited to see Spree. Actually, that's on my watch list, so I can't wait.
So this is your first film. I mean, and for your first film, you are doing excellent. You are winning a lot of a lot of awards. How does make you feel? Because it's like it's not common for a director to the first film being a huge success.
Yeah, that's been just kind of a wild ride because, like I said, all of our film school friends have been working together for a long time. And we've all been, making movies and stuff. And so, we self-financed the film, shot it at the house next door. Like everybody brought, something to the table for free. And so to then get this movie just finished was like kind of a miracle. And then we got it picked up for distribution and we were like, oh my gosh. And then they told us it was going to be in theaters. And, so like it just kept going. It's kind of like I've equated it to building a rocket ship in your backyard with a hammer and nails and like sheet metal, and everybody comes together and helps you, and then you light it and you set it off and it's going into space and you're like, oh my god, it's not blowing up, it's going, it's into orbit, like wow, we did it. And then NASA calls and they're like, what are you doing? You had to ask permission, so it's just been really cool.
Yeah, and what about your favorite genres? Because it's a psychological thriller, horror. What genres did you like the most? Did you watch sci-fi, for example, or fantasy?
Yeah, I love sci-fi thrillers, sci-fi action, that kind of stuff. Like I said, The Matrix was my Star Wars. And then I really got into horror when I met the producer, Jimmy Weber, like a decade ago. We started working together and he was like, brought me into the world of horror. I just thought it was amazing. But, so I've had to educate myself since then, but I would love to keep doing horror stuff, thrillers, character studies, like whatever I can get going.
No, I think one of the, the fanzine, the idea of the fanzine was to, bring together all the fans or the artists that work with sci-fi, fantasy, horror, because this kind of genres allows the artists to create incredible situation, incredible worlds. I mean, it's fantastic. The things you can do with horror or fantasy, sci-fi. I mean, you can come up with amazing ideas. And what about your the films that you, besides The Matrix? What are the films that really inspire you, or that you are okay? I want to do something like this.
Yeah,
maybe The Matrix, but
yeah, I think I go more to which directors I really connect with, and that'd be people like Cronenberg, the Coen brothers. I really love the Coen brothers just for their because a lot of their movies are very lighthearted, but they have just really good dramatic irony, and things that happen to people that are really fantastically weird, but also feel like, yeah, that's something that would happen, David Fincher, those kind of folks. So, but I definitely love to live in that world of uncomfortable, you don't feel safe, that kind of anxiety, that kind of stuff.
What about Paul Thomas Anderson, because he also plays with that kind of stuff?
Yes, I love like There Will Be Blood and all of those kind of, like, that's a really great character study.
Yeah, Magnolia. I remember Magnolia was great.
Yeah.
I mean, and it had something. I mean, I was going to ask you if you use Magnolia as an inspiration, because I felt something of Magnolia is about, luck, but at the same time it's about characters that are trying to find themselves. In this case, your character is losing himself. I think
Yeah.
it's so.
I haven't seen Magnolia in a long time. I should go back to it because maybe it did inspire it subconsciously or something. But yeah, I need to rewatch that one.
What about literature? What kind have you read some literature, horror, sci-fi that
Man,
do you think you?
as much as as much as I'd like to write, even less do I read, which is probably not very good. So it's something I work on. I've read it. I like reading scripts, especially when they post scripts online, like Tarantino films. You can read his scripts, and it's just really great to feel how the prose comes together, and just get a sense for different writers in that way. Um, but I was always that kid in high school that read the Cliff's Notes and like and didn't actually read the whole book before the test. So I've always fallen behind in that area.
Mm. So, what is next? What subjects or what demons do you want to expel by doing a film? Because that's what every artist do.
Right.
What subjects do you want to talk about in your next
Yeah.
project? And
Oh, go ahead. It's already been interrupting you.
are you
So
there?
yeah, I got you.
Oh.
So there's so much that we want to do next. We're trying to figure out which avenue to go down. But if Rent-A-Pal is a monster that's made out of loneliness and vulnerability and all that stuff we talked about, then the next monster I want to do will have to do with trauma from your parents, religious trauma, like childhood, stuff that you grow up and it messes you up forever. Those kind of things. But then, yeah, there's just so many. I tend to come up with movie ideas based off of things that are happening to me in my life. And one of those was becoming a stepfather recently, and just how much of a journey that's been. And so I have a movie that I'm kind of working on with that. So, it's all very personal in the end, which is, I think, what makes it work.
Well, great. And you're going to continue with horror? Are you going to explore other genres? I mean, sci-fi, fantasy. You talk about the Matrix, maybe a low-budget Matrix.
I have an outline for a sci-fi action thriller that I'm working on that someday I'm going to make. I know it. But it's going to take some money. So
Mm.
that's the pipe dream goal. And then, but I love living in the thriller space. So whether that's horror thriller, sci-fi thriller, action thriller, I would love to try any of those. So.
Something that really surprised me about the film, it's a very low budget film, like it's 100,000. I mean, it's incredible. Here in Argentina, a lot of directors complain we don't have money to do the movie, and the average budget is 300,000. I say, come on, this guy did this amazing movie with 100,000. So what's the key? What's the secret? Because a lot of directors will watch this.
Yeah, absolutely. My whole mantra is, especially to people who don't have money to make films, make film, or you have to think of filmmaking as, what can I make with things that are at my disposal? And I got really lucky in this situation that I had a red camera, and lenses and all the kind of stuff we needed, because I worked in commercials and stuff here in Denver. We had the house next door, we had BLF, we had a little money, and otherwise it was like a TV and a couch, and like it really wasn't a lot to pull it all together. So it was just one of those perfect situations where I was like, we can make a really good movie with just these things that I have laying around, and it doesn't have to cost that much. Like Will Wheaton, for example, as we were putting the movie together, we were like, well, maybe we could put a big chunk of the budget towards getting the Rent-A-Pal, like finding someone that's a name that's really good and cool. And if we do it in this way, we only had to have him come in for one day. So we flew Will out from LA. He filmed in our studio in Colorado and went home. And then we had all the footage we needed to just play back on the TV with BLF later. So you have to be thinking in those ways. But if you're Don't basically, if you have $10,000 to make a movie, make a $10,000 movie. Don't try to make a $30,000 or $100,000 movie. If you have no money, then make what you can for no money and embrace it and use it as your kind of creative box to work within, rather than that wall you're always trying to break through.
No, and because it's very interesting because there are a lot of good sci-fi stories that can be told with low budget. I mean, the idea of, oh, I'm going to do, a big budget sci-fi, it's not necessary. If you have a good script, and I mean, you can do it. You can find a way. And I mean, you got Will Wheaton as like a very known actor. I'm a fan of Star Trek, so I know very well Wheaton. How did you come up with the idea to get him, and how did you contact him?
Yeah, well, this is it's one of those things that in an interview would be easy for me to lie and say Will Wheaton was our first choice for this film, but he really was. Like, honest to God. We sat down and we were like, okay, if we could get a name actor for one day for this amount of money, who would it be? And we were like, Will Wheaton would be cool. And a bunch of other names, someone that was kind of from the 90s that felt like they might fit into that nostalgia. And so when we first started that process, we then were like, we had a list of like 5 or 10 names, and I started at the bottom because I was like, we're never going to get Will Wheaton, so let's call this guy's agent. So I literally picked up the phone and called this actor's agent, and just because I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know that you need like a casting director and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, hey, I have this movie script, and I would love for so-and-so to be in it. Would you read it? And they were like, everyone's out to lunch right now. And so I was like, okay, I'll call back later, thank you, and hung up. Never tried that again. And we eventually ended up getting a casting director through a friend, and we were able to get the script to Will. It just so happened, we met this casting director that just so happened to have a good relationship with Will Wheaton and his agent. And so we were like, are you kidding me? Like, it was just a coincidence that we came to him like, hey, can you get us Will Wheaton? And he was like, yes. So anyway, to your point earlier, Will loved the script, and he was on the phone with us like, guys, normally I don't do anything for this. Like, this is not very much money that you're offering, but I love this script, so I would love to be part of it. And he was just like he was so cool about it. He came out, he did a great job. He was like, this was great, guys. Thank you so much. Went home, and then, I guess he had a really great experience, but that was really special.
No, yeah, I mean, great. And what about mini-series? Have you thought about this kind of format in order to tell stories? Because that's another way.
Yeah.
And you can do like...
I do have a Scott Park, the cinematographer of Rent-A-Pal. He's also a great writer. And him and I are working on writing a miniseries for some kind of streaming service. So we're, it's going to take a long time to like get all that together and find someone who wants to make it for the millions of dollars. But that it would be really fun, and it's in the sci-fi kind of fantasy genre.
Oh,
so
great.
Yeah.
No, and what about novels? Do you have any favorite novel? If someone gives you the money, what novel or story would you like to adapt? I'm Jerry Bruckheimer, and I'm giving you free pass. You can do whatever you want.
The only one that comes to the top of my head is, and I can't remember the name, so I don't want to sound like a moron. Hold on. The Enigma of Amigara Fault by Junji Ito. It's just a short story at the end.
You love Junji Ito?
I have only read Yo. So, and the Enigma of Amigara Fault. Now I'm like, it was a long time ago, but I just remember reading that one and seeing the visuals of it and being like, oh my God, this is like really cool. But I don't think I'm the first person to think of that. It's probably one of those things that's like floating around in Hollywood right now. So.
Yeah, it's a challenge to adapt Junji Ito. I mean, Junji Ito for me, it's like best horror storyteller. I mean,
Yeah.
nowadays with Clive Barker. I mean, Clive Barker and Junji Ito for me are like the best right now. Better than Stephen King. Most people won't agree, but for me, Clive Barker and Junji Ito are like
Yeah.
like really. I've been trying to contact also Junji Ito to do a live. I mean, I know he's speaking. I think he speaks English, so we will try. If I get to him, I will try to contact you with you. So maybe who
Yeah,
knows?
let me know.
But the interesting about Junji Ito has short stories that can be adapted. I think
Yeah.
in short films. Have you thought about doing that also?
There's a couple of shorts that we have like, in the pile of ideas. So, nothing in the works currently, but, yeah, for Junji Ito and the Amigara Fault, like it's a short and it would be such a cool short. But if you can figure out a clever way that to expand that out into a feature, just the like you were saying, the way he depicts these horrific images to try to
Yeah.
convert that to a really cool style of filmmaking would just be like, if you nailed it, it would be awesome. If you didn't, people would be
Yeah.
really angry.
Yeah, yeah, a lot of people. Actually, well, here we have a lot of Instagram live with an actress called Clara Kovacic. That's a horror actress from Argentina that also works with people in the US. And she's like a huge fan, and she's like the number one fan of Junji Ito. And we were talking about that maybe Cronenberg is the only person, because there's a lot of body horror in Junji Ito. So
Hmm.
I don't know. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, well, and it's funny you
Cronenberg.
say Cronenberg because he's on my list of directors that are like my main source of inspiration. So I totally could draw, I see that line that you're drawing. It's like the perfect comparison.
Mhm. No, yeah, I mean, he's the only one because you will need all this idea of this, yeah, body horror. I mean, the use of practical effects like makeup. I mean, but in the old school way, because now with CGI, I know, I think all the FX guys are very lazy. They put these CGI things that don't scare anyone. I mean, you need to come back to because, in the 80 movie, we have all these FX where you knew that was real. I mean, it's not a CGI. It's
Yeah.
just a guy. Well, Hellraiser is one of my favorite horror movies. Do you remember when Frank resurrects the scene
Oh
in
yeah.
Hellraiser?
Oh yeah.
That was I think it was like slow motion, but at a real scale. I mean, they
It's so
took like
cool.
days to do. Yeah, well,
I love that
would you
movie.
do a horror?
Oh, I was just
Yeah,
gonna say, in terms of practical effects, you should check out Eat, directed by Jimmy Weber, shot by me. We made that before Rent-A-Pal, and it's about a girl that eats herself. Like the tagline is, she finds herself and then she eats herself, and it's basically like chewing on your thumb, your hangnails until you take your whole arm off. So
Mm.
we're all about the
No,
practical effects and like doing it for real. Just because, like you brought up the Thing, you watch the remake of the Thing that they redid with all the CGI and stuff like that, and the movie's still good, but the monsters just don't feel the same. They don't feel real, even though they're more horrifying in a lot of ways and stuff. But when you can tell that there's a physical object on set that's moving and dripping with jelly or whatever they use, it just feels like it's just more real. I don't know.
no, also it takes a lot of creativity because I know people that works. I work with producer and director here in Argentina. I know the people who does the FX. They're very passionate people. The people that do the makeup, and they come up with crazy ideas. Sometimes, well, in Argentina, they need materials that are too expensive, but they find a creative way to do it like cheaper. And that's I love that about them because they're all the time like maybe it's for only a shot that lasts 1 second, but they
Right.
put everything there.
Man,
So
well, and that's what it's so important, like in Rent-A-Pal, all we had at our disposal was throwing a dummy down the stairs when mom gets pushed down the stairs. And you can tell it's a dummy, but it was more about the emotional impact of that moment. And still, like, had we done it with a stuntman or somehow done it with CG, it just wouldn't have felt the same as having something that's actually like, going down the stairwell. So Um, and also when you have the physical object there on set and you can look at it and you can see it under the lights and all that kind of stuff, that's where some of the best ideas happen. And so when you're doing CG, it's so hard to just, you're like looking at a tennis ball, like, I think it's going to be about like this type of thing. So, yeah.
No, it's. What about David Lynch? Have you do you like? Have you take something of him? Because he in a way he used the surreal in a horror kind of way.
I actually haven't really seen much David Lynch stuff. I've always, it's very experimental, and it was just one of those things that I never sat down to watch. But you're not the first person to mention that, and so it's probably a good thing for me to go and familiarize myself with.
There are two films I recommend you that the Lost Highway. It's brilliant. I love that film. There's a lot of theory about the explanation about that film because it's really a mess, but I love it. And also Eraserhead. That's the two films
Perfect.
Well, because it's kind of a body horror noir atmosphere. Oh, it's so great. I really would like to chat with David Lynch. I would ask him a lot of things. Now he's talking about meditation and everything. I wish to talk about that. That first, David, it's like Cronenberg. Let's talk about The Fly or something like that.
Oh man, The Fly. That's such a good movie. That's the first. Oh my gosh, I'm literally remembering this right now as you're saying this. The Fly, I think, was the first horror movie I ever saw because I was really young. And I remember being like, this movie's scary, but just loving it. So anyway.
Yeah, no, the effects. That's what I love about Cronenberg. He used practical effects, and that's the key. We have to return to that. You mentioned Junji Ito, and what about anime? Do you have any influence on anime? Because a lot of directors in the US, for example, they took Satoshi Kon. That's an anime. It's for me, he's a genius. Do you have any any favorite anime?
Man, no, unfortunately, that's another medium that I just have yet to really dive into. So, do you have any recommendations? I would love to know where to start.
I will send you. I always send mails with recommendations to people because I am all the time talking to people. So, oh, you should watch that. I will send you some that if you are looking for sci-fi, horror, there are different. Brian says The Fly messed me up as a kid. Yeah. We all have the same experience with The Fly. Actually, yeah. It was The Fly and another film called I can't remember the name, but yeah, well, all the 80 movies traumatized us as a kid. So there are two options: or we became mad people, crazy people, or become writers, directors, or actors.
Yes, exactly. And man, I remember The Fly at the end when he takes the shotgun and he's like, he puts it up here. That was the first time seeing in a movie someone telling someone else to kill me for me. And as a young kid, I just remember being like, oh my God, this is intense,
And by the way, I'm also going to we talk about Terrified. That's the Mian Rugna movie that's going to be remade. I will try also to send you some recommendation from Latin America because in the last maybe 5 years there have been a huge an exponential growth of Latin American horror sci-fi. And well, there's a lot of talented people that you should please come to Argentina if you can, or Latin America, so you can start working with these people, because we talk about this with our directors. Now we live in a globalized world, and co-productions now is going to be like the rule. And there's a creativity. We can do amazing stuff.
I would love to do that. First of all, to hear your recommendations, because I'm so down for that. And coming down and doing some kind of collaboration would be cool too. So we'll see if we can make something happen. But I would love to just come and stay there for 3 months and bother you guys.
Oh well, yeah. Oh well, come with Brian. Do you speak Spanish or?
I do speak Spanish. I took 5 years in high school, so it's it's there.
Oh, great. Si querés podemos seguir hablando en español.
Sí, un poquito, Now I'm on the spot, so I can't do it. Puedo hablar muy despacio.
Okay. Ah, bueno, bien, bien. Te manejas. Muy bien, muy bien. Well, that's great. Actually, we have well, Chris Kelly speaks very well Spanish, actually, because he lived in many countries here.
Oh yeah,
Talking Spanish. So, and also, I always ask this question, would you do a film here in Latin America and Argentina? Would you come to do a film here?
absolutely. I think anywhere to go anywhere outside of the United States and make a film would be incredible, and Argentina especially, and just South America. Like I would love to do something like that, just because it's actually the one continent that I haven't been to yet. The closest I've been is Aruba, so I want to get down to like the South Pole, like
No, well, yeah, no, well, we start like with this short film I told you about, because you start small, like doing small co-productions, small thing, and then little by little, I mean, and that's the whole idea of this, because a lot of audience that watch our interviews now, they know, oh, the John with Rende Paul, and now they will wait for your next film. So when can we expect your next film?
Oh man, if I knew the answer to that question, I would have so much less anxiety right now. um, we're working on stuff. We're trying to get a few things going. You never know what's going to, actually go first. So the goal is to put a bunch of irons in the fire. Um, but we've got a few outlines that are close. It won't be long, I'm hoping.
Yeah, well, if I can help you with that, at least let me know. I can, I like to introduce people because I always start introducing people, and when you do that, you generate projects. Like, say, oh, you should talk to that, and then you have a movie, and then you have a series. Because I always say I'm a proactive fan, because once I love something, I say, well, someone should make this. Okay, nobody does it. Well, I will do it, and then it's like we are trying to do. So great. I mean, we hope this year. Are you? It is allowed to shoot right now in the U.S.
Yeah, you can shoot.
Denver?
It's there's social distancing measures, and I also act, and I've been doing a lot of commercials here in town, and they test the crew almost every morning on set, and it's all felt very safe. So and a lot of people here are getting close to being vaccinated, so we're hoping that we can. Although I will say I've really enjoyed having to wear masks on set. I feel like we should just keep doing that, because it's kind of nice to just have that extra measure of protection, because everyone is so close to each other, and just having wearing masks, having worn masks this whole year, we didn't get sick with anything else, let alone COVID. So it's just so great to not get sick. So let's keep doing that.
Here, someone asking, where can we send our short stories on script in case you're looking for material?
Just shoot something into my DMs on on Instagram. I'd be happy to look at something.
Oh, by the way, if you all your short films you have participated in as an actor, director, cinematographer, send us to us, and I will put you in our Instagram. I've been doing that with a lot of short films from Christopher, Joshua Wheaton, and then I translate it to Spanish. I put the subtitles so more audience can know about your previous work. So the Steve short film, can you send it to me so I can put it? It's no problem.
I'll send you a Vimeo link and make sure it's public and you can put it up. It's like that movie we made. We were young at a film school, and we're like, let's spend all of our money on a short film, and so we did, and it got into one film festival, and no one ever saw it, and so it was a good lesson for us in doing something that's within your means.
Yeah. And what about the festivals? Because in which festival do you? Because nowadays there are plenty of festivals. Which festival do you think for independent artists? You think they are better? Because I know you have to choose. Because for some festival you have to pay, so you have a budget to invest in festivals.
Yeah. We had spent a lot of time going to Fantastic Fest in Austin, But
Awesome.
that one we've kind of moved away from. And I don't know what the last year there weren't any film festivals, and before that I can't remember where else we've been. Oh, we went to Sitges in Spain, and
Yeah,
that was
very
a
famous.
really cool international festival. And they were so good to the indie filmmakers. But we're kind of like, we're actually in that place right now where we're looking for our like next home for indie film festivals. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because Sundance is not longer an indie festival. The other day,
Right? No, it's
in
not
a
at all.
no, like in another live, because Lloyd Kaufman says Sundance is not longer what it used to be, and it's true.
No, but
When
it's kind of that's the course of a film festival. Every film festival starts small, and they can get bigger films. And if you're the director of the festival, you're always trying to grow like that. So I totally understand that Sundance is like, and that's fine. Go be Sundance, and there's so many other cool up and coming ones. So it's just interesting to watch those changes happen.
well, here Brian says Grimfest.
Grimfest, that's right. That's the one in the UK. They gave us best screenplay, and he got best actor. So we're down with that one.
Ah, great. Yeah, actually, in Germany, there's a very big festival. I have to look it up, but I don't. Have you have you gone to German festivals?
Yes. What is the name of the festival? Stand by, because I don't want to. I want to make sure that I give them the credit that's due.
The
Okay, I'll have to look it up.
Oh, by the way, people, if you are watching, if you have short films, send me an MD, and we will put you in the Instagram. The idea of the fanzine is to show to people all the short films, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. The idea is to show what a lot of independent artists are doing. Because honestly, I'm fed up with Netflix. Netflix is just garbage. I don't watch Netflix anymore.
It
I'm
feels,
looking
yeah.
now.
It feels a little diluted.
Yeah, it's always the same. They use the same formula. Actually, they buy always the same thing. And nowadays, I'm watching more on independent platform, independent festivals. Not only the big festivals, but more independent. Like in Latin America now, we have an explosion of festivals. The Bogota Festival in Mexico. Macabro and Mórbido. Well, in Argentina, the Buenos Aires Rojo Sangre. Please, next year, if you have something, send to Buenos Aires Rojo Sangre. So
awesome, perfect. Yeah, and the one we were in Germany was called Strasbourg. Strasbourg European
yeah.
Fantastic Film Festival. We got laurels for that one.
Oh, great. And also Night Visions. Guys, Night Visions is a very cool festival. It's from, Nordic. It's great. So I have a question I asked everyone. I asked Brian, and then Brian asked to me, and I responded also. How would you like to be remembered?
Ooh, that's a good question. How would I like to be remembered? I honestly, my goal in life is to just come at everybody with as much kindness and happy, fun energy as I can. And so I hope I'm remembered as someone who was just really like, man, that guy was so nice. So, honestly, aside from movies and all that kind of stuff, I would love for people to look fondly back on, wow, Jon Stevenson, what a nice guy, instead of like, man, that guy was a real asshole,
Fair enough. Well, Jon, thank you very much for this chat. So we call it. I call it chat with mate.
That's right.
Como dice, charlando y tomando mate. I hope I can get you soon the alfajores and mate also to Brian to Denver. With my, I always contact people so they can get you they can take the alfajores. So well, let's keep in touch. Let's keep talking, and people, if you have ideas, just start sharing, because it's the co-production, the global now. It's a global world with and we can do whatever we want with this social media.
That's right. Let's get something going. And thank you so much for taking the time to to have me. I'm sorry it took me a bit to get on here with you, but this was great, and I look forward to following all the other interviews. I hope you get Junji Ito.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'm so stubborn that I will. Trust me. I'm so stubborn. I'm really, really. I mean, I will insist. I'm talking right now with other anime creators that also I admire. Junji is kind of a star right now, so it's kind of difficult. But trust me, I'm stubborn enough.
Yeah, let's do well. And again, make sure to send me all your anime recommendations. I'd love to get going on that.
Of course, of course. It's a whole world. Well, let's keep in touch and thank you very much. Bye, people.
Thank you. Have a good one.